path from boyhood to manhood has never been easy. In every culture, across every era, there have been rites of passage, some formal, others invisible, that signal the crossing of a threshold. At the core of these transitions lies one common element: suffering. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius, whose meditations have survived as a guidebook for personal resilience, believed deeply in the formative power of hardship. In his view, pain is not just unavoidable, but necessary. It chisels away at what is immature and undisciplined, forging in its place something stronger, wiser, and more enduring. In this light, the suffering of boys is not cruelty, it is crucible. Without it, manhood remains shallow, performative, and ultimately incomplete. To suffer, in the Stoic sense, is not merely to experience pain, but to confront difficulty with awareness and intention. Marcus Aurelius urged his readers to love only what happens, what was destined, no greater harmony. He did not advocate for seeking suffering recklessly, but rather for embracing it when it comes, as it always does. For boys, this suffering can take many forms: rejection, failure, loneliness, confusion, the loss of innocence, the weight of responsibility. These are not aberrations or detours from life's journey, they are the journey. Shielding boys from these experiences, however well-meaning, only delays their maturity. A boy who has never struggled cannot be expected to stand strong when life inevitably demands more than he is ready to give. Modern society often sends mixed messages to young men. On the one hand, they are told to be emotionally open, to avoid toxic expressions of masculinity. On the other, they are still expected to lead, to perform, to endure. But manhood is not a costume to be worn or a checklist of traits to be achieved. It is a character forged in the invisible fires of discipline, sacrifice, and accountability, qualities that only arise through trial. Marcus Aurelius didn't become a Stoic because life was gentle with him. He rose to the occasion amidst plague, war, and betrayal, training his mind not to flee hardship, but to grow from it. Likewise, boys must be challenged, not abused or broken, but given the space and expectation to fail, recover, and try again. There is a difference between pain that destroys and pain that builds. Suffering becomes destructive when it is meaningless, when it is endured without guidance, compassion, or purpose. But when a boy learns to interpret hardship through the lens of growth, it becomes transformative. The athlete who pushes through fatigue and loss to learn resilience, the student who fails and learns humility, the child who faces the death of a loved one and confronts the impermanence of life. Each of these is a moment of suffering, but also of awakening. Marcus Aurelius believed that the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This Stoic maxim reminds us that it is not in the absence of obstacles, but in our engagement with them that virtue is born. This process is not instantaneous. A boy does not wake up one morning a man because he endured a single hardship. Manhood is not an event. It is a long discipline. In each setback and discomfort, the boy is given a chance, not a guarantee, to mature. It is a choice to confront suffering rather than avoid it. This is why rites of passage in traditional societies often involve a symbolic ordeal. Whether a solo journey, a physical trial, or a test of courage, the boy is forced to meet himself. In modern life, we may lack formal rituals, but the principle remains. Life offers its own ceremonies: heartbreak, failure, responsibility. These moments ask a boy, quietly and urgently, will you rise? Marcus Aurelius also emphasized the role of reason in the face of emotion. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. A boy who suffers learns to master his mind, to navigate fear and anxiety not by pretending they don't exist, but by standing within them calmly. He learns that suffering is not the enemy. Indulgence, self-pity, and avoidance are. This psychological strength is what defines a man, not bravado, not aggression, but inner mastery. It is the difference between reacting and responding, between collapsing and growing. A boy who suffers with intention becomes a man who does not flinch. To argue that all boys need to suffer is not to glorify pain. It is to recognize a universal truth. Growth demands friction. Like iron is tempered in fire, so too are boys shaped by adversity. But suffering alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by reflection, guidance, and a framework of meaning. Stoicism offers that framework, not as a rigid doctrine, but as a philosophy of life that teaches us to welcome difficulty as a teacher rather than a tormentor. Ultimately, the boy who suffers and learns does not just become a man. He becomes a better man, one who leads with humility, acts with integrity, and endures with quiet strength. In a world that often mistakes comfort for kindness, it is essential to remember what Marcus Aurelius knew centuries ago. It is not in ease, but in effort that greatness is born.